was 2047 a.m. on a Tuesday in March when Sarah Mitchell's phone buzzed on her nightstand. She'd been in a deep sleep in her suburban Portland home, the kind of sleep you only get when you feel completely safe. The notification read, "Motion detected at your front door." She'd installed the smart doorbell 6 months earlier, a top-rated model that promised peace of mind. But as she opened the app and saw the live feed, her blood ran cold. A figure stood motionless on her porch, facing the camera directly, wearing a dark hoodie. They weren't knocking. They weren't moving. Just staring. Story 1. The watcher Sarah's first instinct was to check the timestamp. Real time. This was happening right now. She lived alone, and her nearest neighbor was 100 yards away. Her hands trembled as she watched the figure remain perfectly still, head tilted slightly as if studying the camera lens. She grabbed her phone with both hands, her mind racing. Should she call 911? What would she even say? Someone's standing on my porch. She switched to her home security app, checking the other cameras around her property. Shh. Nothing. Only the front door showed this presence. The figure raised one hand slowly, and Sarah's breath caught, but they weren't knocking. They were waving, directly at the camera, at her. They knew she was watching. Sarah's fingers fumbled as she dialed 911, whispering into the phone even though no one could hear her. The dispatcher stayed on the line as she described the situation. 8 minutes, the longest, 8 minutes of her life until she heard the sirens. Through the doorbell camera, she watched the figure's head turn toward the approaching red and blue lights. Then, calmly, deliberately, they walked down her porch steps and disappeared into the darkness between the houses. Police searched the area for 2 hours. They found boot prints in the flower bed beneath her bedroom window. The officer's flashlight revealed something else, small indentations in the soil, suggesting someone had stood there multiple times. "How long have you had these cameras?" the officer asked. 6 months, she told him. He nodded grimly. "Check your old footage." Sarah spent the rest of that night scrolling through weeks of recordings. Her stomach turned as she discovered the pattern. Every few nights, always between 2 and 4 a.m., the same figure appeared, sometimes standing in the shadows just beyond the camera's clear view, sometimes sitting on her porch steps. Once, pressing their face close to her living room window, she'd been watched for months and never knew it. The police increased patrols, but the visitor never returned. Sarah installed more cameras, motion sensor lights, even adopted a dog. But the damage was done. She'd lost something she could never get back, the feeling of safety in her own home. Every notification now sends a jolt of adrenaline through her system. She hasn't slept through the night since. Story 2, the wrong door. Marcus Chen thought his doorbell was malfunctioning. For 3 weeks in July, he'd been receiving motion alerts when nothing was there. He'd see the notification, check the feed, and find his empty apartment hallway staring back at him. He almost called the company for a replacement. Then, on a Thursday evening, he received an alert while having dinner. He ignored it at first, but his phone buzzed again and again. 7 notifications in 2 minutes. Annoyed, he opened the app. A man stood at his door, frantically pressing the doorbell and pounding with his fist. But this wasn't his door. The wallpaper was different. The door number read 7B. Marcus lived in 9B. He realized with creeping horror that his doorbell had somehow linked to someone else's camera. He was watching a stranger's door in what appeared to be a different building entirely. The man at the door was screaming something, his face contorted in rage. Marcus could see his mouth moving but couldn't hear the audio. Then the door opened. A woman appeared, and the man forced his way inside. The door slammed shut. Marcus called the police immediately, but explaining the situation proved nearly impossible. What address? He didn't know. What city? He wasn't sure. The app showed no location data for this mystery camera. Tech support couldn't explain how 2 devices had cross-linked. By the time they traced the signal to an apartment complex in Seattle 1,200 miles away, it was too late. Police arrived to find a domestic violence incident that had ended tragically. Marcus learned he'd been accidentally witnessing someone else's life for weeks. Those false alerts weren't malfunctions, they were real motion at someone else's door. He thinks about that woman constantly, about the alerts he'd dismissed. Could earlier intervention have changed the outcome? The company issued a firmware update calling it a rare connectivity error. Marcus uninstalled his doorbell the next day. Story 3. The Smile Jenna Rodriguez's doorbell captured something at 3:03 a.m. on Halloween night that still defies explanation. She was awake, scrolling through her phone, when the notification appeared. Motion at the front door. Probably teenagers, she thought, given the holiday. The footage showed a child, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, standing motionless on her porch. No costume, just regular clothes. At 3:33 in the morning. The child's face was turned directly toward the camera, and they were smiling. Not a normal smile. Too wide, too fixed, like a mask. Jenna enabled the two-way audio, Hello? Are you okay? Are you lost? The child didn't respond, didn't blink. Just that smile, stretching wider. Jana called the non-emergency police line. While she waited, she kept watching. The child never moved, never broke eye contact with the camera. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. When police arrived 22 minutes later, the porch was empty, but the doorbell had never detected the child leaving. Officers checked the footage. The child was there 1 second, and in the next frame, simply gone. No walking away, no movement. Just there, then not. Police found no reports of missing children that night. Jenna showed the footage to neighbors, posted it online. No one recognized the child. The smile in that video haunts everyone who sees it. Jenna moved 3 months later. She's never installed another smart doorbell. These devices promise to make us safer, to give us eyes when we can't be watching. But sometimes, they show us things we are never meant to see. If you have a smart doorbell, review your footage regularly. Trust those alerts. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these stories. And subscribe for more real encounters with technology's dark side. Because in our connected world, you're never really alone, and that's not always a good thing.